In Minneapolis on Saturday, just hours after Alex Preddy was shot and killed by federal agents, ICE agents and police were seen deploying tear gas near a preschool during enforcement operations. Thousands of miles away, dozens of immigrant families are seen protesting behind the fences of a Texas detention facility. It's where a 5-year-old Ecuadorian boy and his father were sent this week after being detained in Minnesota, some of them holding signs that translated read "Liberty for the kids." At this point, it is difficult to see any of these incidents in isolation as we witness these threats and the deadly violent tactics being deployed by federal agents on the streets of American cities. Our next guest, Miles Taylor, reminds us of this, quote, "Far from a situation that spiraled out of control, what has happened in Minnesota is by design. It is the deliberate implementation of top-down presidential guidance, and it's working. Officials are turning DHS into a juggernaut for ridding America of so-called, quote, domestic terrorists, whose crimes appear to be that they hold viewpoints contrary to the president." Miles Taylor also warns, quote, "I must concede that its critics were right. The young department was susceptible to abuse. It's now rife with corruption. And when Donald Trump is gone, it must be remade entirely. That is, unless we want a police state." We're back with Miles and Claire. Miles, this is an incredibly stark piece that you've written. Say more.
Look, I resisted saying this, Nicole. I'll be honest with you. My wife and I have actually been fighting about this for a few years. We met at DHS, and I like to say we found love in a hopeless place. But she has argued that DHS needs to be totally reconstructed. She's argued that it was ripe for abuse, all of those things, that it needs to go. And I resisted that because, you know, in the Bush administration, I went into government to help build DHS. I believed that DHS was one of the solutions to preventing another 9/11. But you know what, this year, Nicole, I have fully come around to her viewpoint. It's been liable for abuse, and now that's what's happening. Donald Trump has fully hijacked the department to act as his pocket police. And those critics for years have been right. And I think a lot of us never imagined the greatest threat to our democracy would come from the inside until Donald Trump arrived on the scene. And I'll just say, Nicole, it's not just about ICE and CBP. We can talk a lot about ICE and CBP, but as Claire knows from her time overseeing DHS from Capitol Hill, Donald Trump has co-opted all of the agencies of the department. He's sending the Secret Service to investigate his political opponents like James Comey. They're sending USCIS to take away visas from students who write op-eds they don't like. They're using FEMA money as a cudgel to punish blue states and to reward red states. You can go through the entire department and see how Donald Trump has remade it into a political machine and a revenge machine. And we got to make sure no president is ever able to do that again. And that starts with deconstructing the department.
Claire, do you agree?
Yeah, listen, Homeland Security, the department, was really an experiment in many ways. It was an outgrowth of 9/11, and it was an attempt to try to bring together disparate parts of government that all would operate under the umbrella of keeping America safe and secure domestically. And it has always been a problem. I mean, when I was doing oversight, as Miles probably remembers, I used to go crazy when I would ask a question like, how many contractors are there working at DHS? And nobody knew. Nobody knew how many employees there were, how many contractors there were. It was really never a tightly run ship. And what it has, and Miles pointed this out in his article, it has a lot of guns and badges. And that's what Donald Trump loves more than anything. It has a lot of guns and badges. And now it has so many guns and badges, it dwarfs any other law enforcement agency in the country, including the FBI. So it does need to be reconstructed. It doesn't make any sense for FEMA to be in the same place as the Secret Service. That doesn't make any sense. And there's a lot of other parts of DHS that Americans don't even realize are all cobbled together within this one agency. So I would look to some of the people who have done a lot of oversight of Homeland Security, like Susan Collins, for example. I'd love to see her speak up about how we redo Homeland Security so there isn't this much power that can be abused in one place.
I mean, let me just play the devil's advocate with both of you. I mean, Donald Trump has abused the Department of Justice as well by forcing out MAGA-friendly career prosecutors who refuse to go to a grand jury absent facts to indict Jim Comey. replaced that U.S. attorney with Lindsay Halligan, who a judge described as, quote, masquerading as a U.S. attorney. He's turned the Pentagon into a department that Democrats and Republicans have accused of carrying out war crimes in the Caribbean. He's turned the State Department into an agency that was involved in some way with producing a speech in Davos that angered and alienated the loss of life from our closest allies, Canada and the UK. I mean, you could argue that Donald Trump has destroyed every pocket of the federal government. What is so uniquely corruptible about DHS, Miles?
Well, it's just that it's so young, Nicole. It hasn't developed these mechanisms to resist. And you're completely right. There is nothing that can fully insulate the U.S. government against a wannabe dictator. And our founders spent literally years and years, decades of their lives thinking through all of history back to antiquity about how you could construct a government that would guard against a wannabe dictator. And they even conceded that, in fact, their best advice was, please don't elect one. So we can't make it perfect. But what you have seen at all the agencies you just referenced, at State Department, at DOJ, at these other places, you've seen more pushback than you've seen at DHS. It's been harder for them. It's been a slog. You've seen people resigning, becoming whistleblowers, going out there publicly. It's been a huge pain in the butt for them to try to take over these other departments. DHS, I don't know. There's been a handful of people who come forward, but they're scared. They're scared because it's been so easy for the White House to so quickly co-opt it. And that's in part, in very large part, because Stephen Miller knows that agency inside and out. He knows it lacks oversight. He knows it lacks the ability to resist. And he's personally micromanaging these offices. And according to reports, down to micromanaging individual operations. And that's something DHS was never, ever prepared to resist.
I mean, Claire, I admire your optimism that Susan Collins might be part of the answer. I do not share it. And let me just ask you this. 7 Democrats voted to confirm Kristi Noem, who wrote in her own book about shooting her dog in the face. Do you think Democrats have come to the realization that none of the Trump officials in this area are good faith actors?
I think they have. And I think those people, in fact, one of the people who voted to confirm her has already said she should resign and that it was a mistake. So, listen, I'm not saying Susan Collins will. I'm saying she's in a position she could. She worked on that committee. She and Joe Lieberman were good bipartisan partners trying to do the right thing at Homeland Security at one point in time. But and I think building on Miles' point about DHS, it's not as transparent as the other agencies. There's so many different functions within the agency. It's a little laboratory for somebody like Stephen Miller. Let's see how many levers of power I can control without anybody seeing what I'm doing. He can hide more. He can really hide more within DHS than you could at Justice or State. And also, there's not the longevity of middle management at DHS like you have at State and DOJ. I'm not saying that Trump hasn't really destroyed or tried to destroy a lot of important institutions, but I think DHS has really been the devil's playground for him.